Hi, blessings. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Let's take it. I had some dental work done today, so my mouth, I just got back from that. So my mouth is. Hi. So my mouth is kind of it's weird, and it's going to affect the way my voice sounds. So just be aware of that. Welcome. Let's take a moment to just settle in. Take a deep breath. Exhale, let it go. Let your attention move from wherever it is, wherever it's been, to the feeling of your breathing. As you do this, let your body be like 5 or 10% more at ease. Soften your face and your throat and your chest and your belly, your sit bones. Feeling your feet on the floor or wherever they are. Sensing what it's like to be embodied. Get a sense for your energy level, your stress level. You can give yourself a number between 1 and 10, 1 being low, 10 being high on the stress activation scale. And then leaning into your intention, what it is that you're most wanting to feel or receive. What you're most wanting to feel from, our gathering and our talk today and our meditation. We'll take a deep breath and hold at the top of the inhale. And then sip in a little bit more breath. Exhale, let it go. Good. And as you open your eyes, you can just let yourself slowly enter back into your room. Lifting the gaze as you look around your space and staying in your body. And then we'll orient to each other. Blessings, welcome again. We're going to be talking about, we're going to be learning to bless, not repress our anger. And so, yeah, just go ahead and put in the chat. Yeah, here to be still. Thank you, Candace. To bless. Okay. Let me pull up my notes for our time together today. Just allowing yourself, as we do for the Dharma talk, just letting yourself receive, listen, no need to remember anything. Just trusting that you'll receive what you're here to receive. This is from Thich Nhat Hanh. To take good care of ourselves, we must go back and take care of the wounded child inside of us. You have to practice going back to your wounded child every day. You have to embrace her or him tenderly, like a big brother or a big sister. You have to talk to him, talk to her. And you can write a letter to the little child in you of 2 or 3 pages. To that you recognize his or her presence and will do everything you can to heal his or her wounds. This is one of my favorites too, from Matthew Silver. If our intention is love, anger never gets to have the last word. So I want to, talk a little bit more so that we can have a better understanding of anger. And to first say that, whenever we approach feelings, it's good to remember that, in the practice we replace evaluation with care. And we can look and see how much we evaluate feelings, and judge them. And anger being one, because we don't understand it. And really, no one taught us how to listen to it. Notice no one really taught us how to have right relationship with it, which is part of the Dharma. Part of the wisdom of the Dharma is learning to have right relationship with our feelings, and anger being a feeling in the body. So we're replacing criticism, evaluation with care. Anger has a purpose. It's not bad. It's not wrong. And it serves to protect our vulnerability. And I point to this part of my body, right? Because I think about the throat and the chest and the belly. And it neutralizes threats. And you can think about, a time not so long ago, in terms of how long, in terms of our planet and such, and life on the planet. Our survival, our physical survival was threatened. It was like anger was really, helpful in this regard to help, armor and protect and fight or flee. But now that we don't have as many of these physiological kind of threats, our vulnerability is more psychological now. And ego threat, which we're, and it's so sensitive, honestly, for really honest human beings, we're easy to offend. It's like we feel so much, and we have right relationship with our feelings. We're less reactive, and then they're not going to come out sideways. So the big threat that we have is ego, and the threat to our image, the threat to our reputation, the threat to our autobiography. It's like we protect that a lot. And when that gets threatened, when our sense of who we are, is threatened, then anger arises. And usually if we're not aware of anger as it's arising in social like relationships, it's really easy to devalue, demean, and undermine whatever threatening person or idea is out there. So devaluing, demeaning, undermining, when that kind of thing is going on, I mean, I just think about reality shows, you know. I mean, you know, like the Real Housewives or any of those kinds of shows. There's so much devalue, demeaning, and undermining going on because the threat is there's complete ego identification. And so all you're doing, really, all you are is like protecting your image, your ego. And it's easy to be irritated. It's easy to be offended. Anger is, as you've probably heard, a secondary emotion. And so it's helpful when we notice that anger has arisen inside of us, remembering that feelings arise blamelessly. Like feelings like arise, anger will arise regardless of anything that you do about it. It's not your fault. It arises due to causes and conditions that have been well rehearsed and well practiced. A and B happen and anger comes up in me. And oh, there's Phoenix. And so, yeah, that's important to remember. I think it's hard for us to cop to our anger. I mean, you know, it's like not easy to admit, you know, when we've gotten pissed off or, you know, triggered, you know, it actually in the moment can be impossible. But later on we can, you know, if we're making a repair and be like, wow, I really lost my temper there. And so, you know, we rather than relating to anger and taking it personally as if because it's arisen, how problematic is that? You know, we judge ourselves just for being angry. And because of that judgment, we have to have a good reason for being pissed. And so we have to make someone else wrong or something else wrong. Anger also indicates when boundaries are being crossed. When things aren't fair, you get pissed. It's good, right? So anger is a messenger that we want to listen to, but we don't want to take it as the last word. And we definitely don't want to take the stories anger tells as truths, but we want to listen to it, get to know it. As I'd mentioned before, there's, you know, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. These are all responses to overwhelm and being in a hyper aroused state. And we can think of anger as a form of fight, depending on how anger is expressed. And you know, given this investigation and this exploration, right, it's like our intention is to relate to anger in a way that allows it to add to our wisdom and not cause harm. I wanted to mention resentment because, you know, I mean, shit, you know, like if you just think about the, you know, any resentments that you might have right now with others, right? Just those little itty bitty irritations up to really big resentments that can cause chasms in families where people don't talk to each other, sometimes for years. So resentment is a low grade form of anger. And, you know, being resentful it defends me against hurt, against the pain that I might experience inside of what's happening in this relationship. Anger helps us to not have to feel things like shame, grief. That's why, often as we're moving through anger and we're working with anger, there'll be something under it and maybe something under that. I wanted to mention too that, someone like me or someone like you, a lot of the people who, my students, can relate to being of the, chameleon or fawn type as being the predominant response to stress. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. A lot of us will say, I maybe I tend toward these two, or I tend towards this one. There's like a wordless prickliness that we can experience in our nervous systems around angry people. Talking about our relationship to anger because of childhood trauma. We've developed this aversion or this fear of the angry person and fear of being judged. So much so that we'll, kind of adjust or fawn so as to fly under the radar or not make that person angry. And so I just wanted to take a moment for us all to reflect on what vulnerabilities and primary emotions anger might protect you from. Just kind of, just noticing what comes to mind. I mean, I find, in my own practice, it's so funny. It's easier to say resent Myron, the person who I'm closest to and feel safest with, or to be angry with him, express my anger because he feels safe. And, it's like the primary emotion that's covering up when I've, looked at this and kind of reflected on this. It's like just the fear of intimacy, the fear of really accepting and loving another human being. Especially like Myron, my husband, that is like so close to me, right? And so, yeah, just taking a moment to reflect on that. Oh dear. Phoenix, she's having she had a little burp. So I want to talk a little bit about forgiving your anger, forgiving our anger, and why I said forgiving our anger, because if we really investigate what we've made anger mean about ourselves or about, an angry person, when someone's angry, when someone's losing their shit, when someone's out of control, when someone's hysterical. This is in terms of a woman and how we feel expressing anger and what have been the archetypes that have existed before us around what an angry woman is or, was, and how we don't want to be that way. I don't want to be that way. And so, or there's, there can be a way in which we're just pissed and angry as an identification. In either way, kind of like we hold on to our anger and we walk in the world as an, person who you don't want to mess with. And so, and we can think about that, people that we may know who are like that. And this just reflects ways of relating to our anger that aren't skillful or kind or caring. And And this brings me to, this relationship with anger, forgiving our anger, learning to befriend our anger, recognizing anger as a message. And absolutely, there's some kind of boundary that's usually being crossed when we get angry. And it's important for us to investigate what that is. And maybe there's some action that we need to take in our lives so that that boundary is respected, right? Or maybe there's something that, we need to grieve or need to, whatever that underlying emotion is. I always think of grief and sadness with anger for some reason. I guess that's probably because it's like my experience, when I feel into my own anger, often I'll find grief and sadness there. Remember that when your anger is repressed, meaning, you might be someone like I was, where it was like, I'm not angry. I don't get angry. Oh, I just laugh because it's like so not. I mean, I've had a very and continue to have a relationship with my anger that's kind of wild because anger is a volatile emotion, and so when it's come in for me, like I mentioned in my email, it's come in hard. I went from being someone who was just never mad to having just so much rage, and really healthy, finding healthy ways to express that as part of the meat of this talk, things that I've learned and what's helped me in working with my own anger. And if we're repressing our anger, depression, anger turned inward. Typically with depression, there's a lot of inner criticism, outer criticism, anxiety, catastrophic thinking. These are not often things we think of, or I used to not think of when I heard depression. I just kind of thought of sad, but no, actually depression is like you're pretty numb to your own sadness in depression a lot of the time. So the last thing I want to mention here is, it's mentioned so often in Dharma talks because it's so helpful, especially with anger. Because anger, again, when we're devoted to love, it can't have the last word. We always want to investigate anger or irritation. It's true. Like before you send the reply, like text that, you're just a little angry or a little annoyed. You wish I know for me, it's like, I wish I would have just sat on that for a little bit longer. Usually anger having the last word leaves a bad taste in your mouth once you've calmed down. And so RAIN, the acronym RAIN, RAIN, Tara Brach has talked a lot about this in her books. And there was another psychologist before her that I guess invented this process. And the first thing that we want to do is recognize when anger has arisen. We want to know what the markers are. What are the somatic markers? What does it feel like in the body when you, like for me, I tighten up, my jaw gets tight. Those are like indications for me that I'm, angry. I might notice like my body gets a little bit more warm. So just recognizing in you, being curious about like, what happens in my body? And maybe even, recognizing the moment anger has arisen. A is acceptance. So it doesn't mean that you like it. I don't know, sometimes anger feels really good. A lot of times, it doesn't feel good to be offended or pissed off at someone. It really, if you feel into it, my experience is it doesn't feel good. but it's here. And so it's like, you don't have to like it, but it's like allowing, accepting it's here. So allowing might be a better word. Giving it space, allowing it to exist. And again, it doesn't mean that you like it. Once we've kind of settled in, like really kind of, okay, I'm with this feeling. Here it is. I'm allowing it. It's okay to feel this way. I don't like it, but it's okay. We might start to investigate. And this isn't so much a mental activity, but we notice, where is this in my body? What are kind of the thoughts? Maybe what am I believing about this person or about myself? When I pay attention, does it get bigger, smaller? Does it change? Maybe maybe we start to sense another emotion. And then once we've done the RAI, recognize, allow, investigate of rain, then the N is nurture. It's like taking care of your anger like a baby as you move forward in your life. The anger may still be the same, it may have shifted, but your relation to it will have changed. And this doesn't, it doesn't take a long time, a couple, just a few moments. And the root of, there's another root to anger in terms of an underlying emotion. And, it's helpful to notice if there's fear. Maybe we're afraid of losing our relationship with our best friend. And, and so part of what we do, is become, angry. It's a little bit easier to rest in. It's a little bit easier to be offended, to be righteous, to make them wrong and you right, than to, feel the fear of losing the relationship, or feel the fear of, whatever the fear might be there. Sometimes it's like the fear of feeling sadness or the fear of feeling grief. So this is very complex, right? It's not like the emotional body is linear, but kind of explaining the landscape in this way can be helpful, so that we can have right relationship with anger. So we're going to transition now to our sit. I like to mention here that these are freely offered and your donation really makes a difference. If you're watching this on the replay, my PayPal link will be beneath this replay. On YouTube, it will be in the notes below this video. So make yourself comfortable. Take care of your body. You want your body to be alert, but at ease. You want to be able to feel the length of your spine, the uprightness of your spine, the integrity, the mountain-like quality of your spine. And as you do this, feeling into that kind of imperturbable quality of your upright body, or if you're lying down, you can just feel into the integrity of the spine. You can notice how this supports your throat, your chest, and your belly. This is from Thich Nhat Hanh, who writes beautifully about anger. He has a wonderful book that I recommend. He talks about anger as a baby, and this is taking care of your baby. When you look at a tree in a storm, you see that the top of the tree is very unstable and vulnerable. The wind can break the smaller branches at any time. But when you look down to the trunk of the tree, you have a different impression. You see that the tree is very solid and still. And you know that it will be able to withstand the storm. We are also like a tree. Our head is like the top of the tree during a tempest of a strong emotion. So we have to bring our attention down to the level of our navel. We begin to practice mindful breathing. We concentrate just on our breathing and on the rise and fall of our abdomen. It is a very important practice because it helps us to see that although an emotion may be very strong, it will stay only for a while and then go. It cannot last forever. If you train yourself to practice like this during difficult times, you will survive these storms. You have to be aware that your emotion is just an emotion. It comes, stays for some time, and then goes away. Why should someone die because of an emotion? You are more than your emotions. It is important to remember this. During a crisis, when you breathe in and out, maintain the awareness that your emotion will go away if you continue to practice. After you have succeeded a few times, you will have confidence in yourself and in the practice. Let us not get caught by our thoughts and feelings. Let us bring our attention down to our belly and breathe in and out. The storm will go away, so don't be afraid. It's natural for awareness to go off somewhere else. Or to start to notice, like, oh, I'm tired. Or, you know, maybe the body and just, it's just all of that belongs. Just relaxing and sensing the belly as refuge. Coming back to breathing into your belly. You have to do it 10,000 times, that's okay. Now that we've settled and established some equanimity in the belly, through the belly. You can continue with that practice, or you can recognize maybe some irritation that you have with somebody. Not anything overwhelming, but just there's someone in your life that you might have a rub with. And recognizing this as anger, a flavor of anger, and notice where you feel it in your throat, your chest, your belly, or maybe you feel it in your hands or your arms or your legs. And intentionally allowing this feeling to be here in relationship to this individual. You don't have to like it. But it's here. It's okay that it's here because it's here. And notice how it is to just be with this in this way. You might notice a shift or a change of some kind. You might sense what happens to this feeling as we bring it awareness in the body. Does it move? Does it change? Does it stay the same as we investigate a little bit more of where it's living? Maybe it's believing something about this person or about you. Notice that. What do you believe about yourself here that, you like yourself in this place of anger? Or are you judging yourself for being angry? What are you believing about this person? That they're selfish or irresponsible? They don't care about you. Maybe there's something else. And then just coming back to your breath, coming back to your body. Nurturing this feeling, having changed our relationship to it just a bit through rain. Taking a moment with your hand on your heart to honor yourself for your practice, to thank yourself for showing up. And for really taking in this reflection of your goodness. I hope there was something there for you. If you would like to mention in the chat what your takeaway is, that would be wonderful. And may you, relate to your anger maybe like a little differently, with a little more kindness, with a little more curiosity, less evaluation and judgment. We will all be more curious about this emotion. It's also a hindrance in the Dharma that arises for us, for all human beings, for me, for you, for everyone. And may we relate to it more skillfully and with more compassion. Feel free to leave your donation. And yeah, good. Yeah, to acknowledge your feelings. That was your intention, Ruth. Yeah. Yeah, so go ahead and you can take yourself off mute as we say our goodbyes.
Bye. It's always nice to be here. I hope your mouth feels better soon.
It's all the numbness is already wearing off. Thanks, Candace. I'm so glad to have you here. Good to have you, Ruth.
Love.
Yeah. All right, I'll see you next